Have you heard of something called the orgasm gap? It's actually pretty important that you understand what the orgasm gap is if you're in a heterosexual relationship and how to avoid it.
The orgasm gap is that heterosexual women have been reporting lower orgasm rates than men and lesbian women. This difference in pleasure may be what's contributing to your partner's low desire. We're going to dive into the orgasm rates, talk about the consequences of this gap, explain why it's happening, why is this gap here, and help you fix it.
Welcome to a pleasure program Quickie. My name is Holly.
I'm Victoria.
We are two licensed therapists specializing in sex therapy, and we are here to provide some sex education content here on YouTube, as well as answer your questions. And we even have a series where we react to Reddit posts regarding all things related to real people's sex lives. If all of this seems interesting to you or you'd like to join our community here on YouTube, please consider subscribing.
Let's talk about rates for people's most recent encounter. So, a study found that 82% of men reported orgasming during their most recent sexual encounter, compared with only 32% of women.
So when you say recent sexual encounter, like their most recent sexual encounter, they were asked about whether or
Yes.
not they had an orgasm, compared men and
Yeah.
women.
Yep.
Okay.
And 82% versus 32% is
Pretty big.
very striking.
Mm-hmm.
And then individuals have also been asked about what their orgasm rate was with a first time hookup, right? So how often were they having an orgasm in their first hookup? And 55% of men said that they achieved orgasm in a first hookup versus 4% of women.
That doesn't surprise me as much.
Because? Share more.
Well, I think that in order to achieve an orgasm, especially for women, requires some knowledge and some time and patience and comfortability, a sense of relaxation that is hard to have with
Mm-hmm.
the first time sexual encounter.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then on average, studies have shown that 95% of heterosexual men reported that they usually or always orgasm during sex, compared to 65% of heterosexual women.
Hmm.
Lesbians reported having an orgasm usually or always 86% of the time.
The lesbians are doing it right.
Absolutely.
Should I say that on YouTube?
Why not? And finally, just to kind of drive this point home with this difference in the pleasure gap, individuals have been asked over the lifespan, age ranges from 20 upwards of 60, 70, have been asked about their orgasm rates, just to figure out if this orgasm gap was really only for young folks who might be inexperienced or older folks who might be struggling with hormonal difficulties. And they found that in a sample of 25,000 people about in the United States, in all of the age groups, men reported higher rates of orgasm than did women. Men's orgasm rates ranged from 70 to 85% over the lifespan, and women's ranged from 46 to 58.
Here's what I gathered from that. Over the lifespan, there's still a gap.
In summary, right, just driving this point home, in summary, it doesn't matter if it's the most recent encounter or a first time hookup or on average or over the lifespan, men are reporting higher orgasm rates than their female partners. So this is for heterosexual relationships.
Mm.
And this is important to talk about because there's a lot of potential consequences of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you think of potential consequences for women having less frequent orgasms than men in relationships, what comes to mind for you?
I think that if you are having less frequent orgasms than your partner, there might be some frustration or resentment that builds around that, a loss of interest in sex in general, maybe avoiding sex, finding reasons or excuses to not have sex with a partner.
Overall, you're more likely to have less sexual satisfaction if you're having less frequent orgasms, which could in turn really impact your relationship satisfaction, right? Like you said, if you're feeling resentment or you're feeling like your needs don't matter, there is a big chance that your satisfaction in your relationship is going to diminish. And even though orgasms aren't the be all end all of a sexual relationship, we've talked about this before, right? They are important. There are great benefits to well-being from orgasm, right? They've shown benefits of improved sleep, improved mood, decreased stress, even like health benefits of lower blood pressure and improved cardiovascular health, reducing pain. There's a lot of benefits to them, right? So overall, it seems like the consequences are it impacts your sexual relationship, your overall relationship, could even impact your well-being. So if you came to this video wondering maybe why your partner doesn't want to have sex, this might be a reason why. We should probably talk about why there is a gap. So what comes to mind for you? Why do you feel like men are achieving orgasms at higher rates than women in heterosexual relationships?
I think first and foremost, there's a lack of understanding and education around female anatomy and what actually tends to produce an orgasm, the type of stimulation required for a woman to have an orgasm. And we place a lot of focus on penile penetration and culturally a lot of focus on male pleasure. If we have a belief that women exist to provide pleasure to male partners, and therefore I think sometimes women don't advocate for their own needs or communicate what they would like or find more pleasurable if they view sex as something they're just doing to please a male partner.
Absolutely. I think that you hit the nail on the head. Overall, there is a significant lack of quality sex education. We've talked about this, right? There's an overvaluation of penetrative sex, and we're not valuing what really creates pleasure for a vulva, which is the clitoris, right? And studies have shown like women, lesbian women, they are
They're spending more time in the bedroom. They're providing oral stimulation.
Yeah. And studies have shown that lesbian women, they are more likely to engage in and receive oral sex, which very likely is why their orgasm rates are higher, right? If they are engaging in oral sex, that is likely creating higher chances of orgasm, since most women cannot orgasm from penile penetration alone. They need clitoral stimulation. And studies have shown that lesbian encounters last longer than their heterosexual counterparts, right? So there's also understanding that the female orgasm can take some time, right? It's not being rushed, whereas a lot of women in heterosexual relationships can feel rushed, or it could be rushed, right? Like sometimes there is premature penetration of the vagina, which could lead to painful sex because there's not enough lubrication or stimulation prior to.
If you are hearing all of this and thinking, me and my partner, we've fallen into this orgasm gap, what can I do about it? We have some tips for you. So to prevent the orgasm gap from causing low sexual desire and a lack of sex in your relationship, first and foremost, have open communication with your partner about your sex life. Be willing to talk about sex, be willing to ask questions and answer questions, and better understand what your partner finds pleasurable and what type of stimulation they prefer. Focus on providing stimulation to the clitoris. A much higher chance and likelihood of your female partner having an orgasm. And take your time. Orgasms take time, especially for women. So no rush. You have nowhere to go, nothing to do, plenty of time. Don't rush into penetration. Take your time, engage in foreplay, make sure there's plenty of lubrication, and there's no shame in having to use lube either. We are fans of suggesting lube. tends to make things a lot easier and a lot better.
Well, we want to know, do you feel like the orgasm gap is why some women struggle with low desire?
Thank you for watching. We would love to hear from you. Please leave a comment below. Let us know if there's any other topics you'd enjoy us to cover here on the Pleasure Program. Consider subscribing, and we will see you again soon.